The final and most challenging technique that I want to share with you today is using a combination of a Google Doc template, a Google form, and a Google add-on called AutoCrat in order to grade student presentations in a rubric form and individually email each student with the grade and comments associated with their presentation. Before I dive in, the first thing I'd like to do is thank my colleague, Dr. Suzanne Sykes, who took the time these last few days to teach me how to do this. Today was the first time that I ever did this, and like I say, it has been challenging, but it's an incredibly powerful tool once you know how to use it and once you get it set up. So, it's well worth the time investment that it takes to troubleshoot it. Okay, so I wanted to share with you the different parts that I did. I started with a traditional rubric like, you would make for any type of presentation. This is based on a chemistry periodicity presentation where the students are given an outline of different parts of a periodicity unit and broken into 7 groups, and then each group has to take their part and teach the class. So they have to research the information, understand the information, and then they also have to create a game to help the class understand their information better. So you can see here in this rubric, they can earn up to 4 points in each of all these categories. The content of what they're covering, how well they comprehend what they're teaching and covering, collaboration with their peers, how well they adhere to the time limit, which is ideally 20 to 25 minutes for both the presentation and the game. Also how well they, how creative their game is, how applicable it is to the information they're trying to teach, and how easy it is to understand. And then also how well the students present the information. Do they speak loud enough? Can the students understand them? And do they go at a good pace so the students can understand it? So this is the background rubric for the project that I, have always used. Then what I did is I went into Google Docs and I made a template of what I want the students to receive when I send out their grade. So here's the template, and I called it Periodicity Student Score Template. I found a shared image that I could use that represented it and titled it. And then I listed the categories that align with the rubric, except I added the total grade earned and also a place for comments. But from the content through the student presentation performance, those are straight off the rubric. And, as we saw in the rubric, for each category, students can earn up to 4 points. So that gives them a total possible grade of a 24. Now in the middle here, these are something called tags. These are actually, instead of actually putting a number in here, eventually what will happen is this document will go to a spreadsheet and pull the values under each one of these fields. And that's how it will populate it and send it to each specific student so that they receive the information related to their presentation. But you have to have some type of document or template that you want, where you want your spreadsheet data to go, to be sent to the students. And that's what this represents. Now what I did is I went into Google Docs and, Google Forms, and I made a grading form. Now this grading form is only for me. So this is a form where I can, look at evaluate each student's presentation and quickly type in the information. So I had my teacher email because I want all of this information sent to me so that then I can populate it into that document template and then send it on to the students. I do want to keep track of their names because that's going to be important for me to use in one of the tags. So I need to insert their name, their email, and then here's where I would actually start grading the presentations. And I could just quickly click on 1 through 4 as far as the score that they've earned for each of those sections. And then I added check boxes of different comments that I thought would be useful to share with the students based on the presentations. You do have to be careful here. You have to select check boxes and not checkbox grids. I started by doing the checkbox grid, and when I populated the spreadsheet, I had issues with how it populated it. So I changed it to just check boxes. So this is the form that I created, and then I sent it to myself. When I sent it to myself, I received it through email, and then I was able to open it up and then actually fill it out. So now I'm going to go through the process like I'm grading another presentation. So my email, I'm going to fill that in. Student's name, we'll say this one is Jenny. And the student email, normally you would put the real student email. For this purpose, I'm going to use my email again just for privacy's sake. For content, I'm going to give her group a 4. For comprehension, a 3. Collaboration, a 4. Time limit, they were a little bit under, so I'm going to give them a 3. They had an outstanding game that was really creative. I'll give that a 4. And the presentation was good, but some of the slides were hard to read. And they also didn't equally share the presentation, so I'm going to give that a 3. Then here's the comments, and you can click on whatever you want. I'm going to say they had a great pace, good mastery. It was hard to read some of the information on the slides. They had a very creative game idea. Great job overall. And then I'm going to submit it. So now that would be the process of grading, one of the presentations. Now that I've graded that, I go back to the original form that I created and sent to myself, and I go under responses. And I had already graded several others, so you can actually see that there's 5 responses here, and you can get the different information from it. But really what's most useful is to go to the spreadsheet view. So if I click on this little green icon up here, that will then bring me to the spreadsheet view where I've entered in the grades for these projects. So you can see here I've graded Amy, Jane, John, and Jenny's presentations. And you can see the different grades that they receive for each of the parts of the rubric. And then under final grade here, what I did is I wrote a very simple formula that just sums from the content column through the student presentation column. And so once you've written that, all you have to do is drag down. I dragged one too many, so I'm going to delete this one. And then that will automatically calculate the sum of columns F5 through K5 for the final grade. And then here's the comment section, and there's more comments in there. It's just chopping it off right now, but the comments are there as well. Now, where it gets incredibly powerful is we can now take this information with that add-on of AutoCrat, and we can actually use, what the AutoCrat will do is allow us to take this information and merge it into that template that I showed you, the Google Doc, and then send it out to each student via email. So I'm going to go ahead and show you that process. So now I'm going to click on Add-ons, AutoCrat, and Launch. And that's going to bring up this add-on and allow us to actually make our merge job. So I'm going to say New Merge Job. And I don't know why, but the view of this looks a little bit different when I record it than it does when I'm just naturally in this Google Sheet doing it. All right, so now what it's doing is it's prompting me for, you know, where is that template that I want to send to the students. So I've got that in my drive, and so I'm going to go under let's see here, periodicity presentation information, and that's just a folder where I have all my periodicity files. And here's the Google Doc that I shared with you earlier that's got the template. So now I'm clicking on that, telling it this is the template that I want you to populate with all the information from my spreadsheet. And I kept it very simple. So my tag name in my template exactly matches my sheet header columns or fields. So you can see that if I have the tag content in my template, then it's going to go to my spreadsheet and find the header content, and that's what it's going to insert in there. And so all of those look great, so I'm going to save that. And then now it's asking me how I want to name my file. So I've actually done this before. So what I want to do is use the tag student name so that I have the student's name and then periodicity presentation. And yeah, there is a space in there. I want to select the file that I want to create. You can pick between a Google Doc or a PDF. I just selected PDF, but either I think would work fine. I do want to email the documents to the students so that they receive it. So I'm again using a tag of email address. And that would act, you know, and what you would want under that header in your spreadsheet is each student's email address so that it would send it to that student. I then named the subject and I called it periodicity presentation grade and comments. And then I typed up Dear, and I've got a tag student name. So then that will actually insert that particular student's name. Here's your graded periodicity presentation. Your final grade for this project was, and then it's going to use another tag to actually pull the final grade. Please see the specific grades for each part of the rubric and comments in the attached document. And that's the document that we picked at the beginning, the Google Doc that I made for the template. And then I want the merged document to be a PDF. So all that looks great. So I'm going to save that. And while this is saving, I just wanted to mention that, you know, this is a reasonably complicated process. You know, you have to have your template, you have to have your form, you have to send a form to yourself and then fill it out. But once you get it done, it's so powerful. And you can, you know, you can use it in so many different ways. Okay, so now I'm going to run the merge now that I've told it exactly what I want. And now what it's essentially doing is it's taking these 4 rows of data that I had populated through my Google form, and it's actually inserting that information into that Google Doc template and sending it out to students. So you can see here it's in the process. It's done 1 job so far. Now it's on the 2nd job. And while it's doing this, I just wanted to continue the thought I had before with, you know, this is a complicated process, but it's so powerful. And once you go through the investment in time to set this up, it would make evaluating rubrics and sharing the feedback with the students so much quicker and more meaningful. So now it's telling us that all the jobs are completed. It's merged all four. So I'm going to say OK. Now, if I close this and go back to my spreadsheet and scroll to the right, it's added some columns to my spreadsheet. Past my comments, it's now got a document ID, a URL, a link to the merged document, and then the name. So for example, you saw me add Jenny's information. So if I click on Jenny's periodicity presentation, this was what would have gotten emailed to her. So you can see that it's now populated the Google Doc with the specific grades that she's earned for each part of this rubric. It included the total grade as well as all the comments associated with her presentation. Also, if I go to my email, because I emailed it to myself, the other thing that you'll see in addition to that template is it's now written a note to her saying, "Dear Jenny," so this is where I had the tag student name, "here's your graded periodicity presentation. Your final grade for this project was," and then that's where it inserted the final grade. "Please see the specific grades for each part of the rubric and comments in the attached document." And there's all the specifics. I hope, like I say, I hope you find this to be a useful technique that you can use in your online classes or regular classes and even share with your colleagues. Thank you so much.